So let's get into what I think is probably one of the more interesting panel sessions that we have today. No offense to everybody else's panels. Advancing Energy Security, the Vertical Corridor, and the US-Cyprus cooperation in the new energy landscape. Now, to say that, for me personally, as an American of Greek Cypriot descent, that I am excited about this is probably the biggest understatement that anybody could make now. But I think the best way to start the discussion is actually to read out an excerpt from the joint statement that was released back in November of 2025 by the governments of the United States, the Republic of Cyprus, Greece, and the State of Israel on the occasion of the 3+1 Energy Ministerial. So I'm just going to read this out because I think it says a lot to set the stage. So the energy ministers of the Republic of Cyprus, Greece, Israel, United States, as well as the co-chairs of the United States National Energy Dominance Council met to reaffirm their shared commitment to promoting energy security and cooperation in the East Med, including through the Eastern Mediterranean Energy Center as key to regional strategic stability and resilience. Since then, it's safe to say that there have been many discussions in D.C. Surrounding the U.S. and Cyprus cooperation, and in particular regarding Cyprus as a strategic partner towards this purpose. So what does this all mean for U.S.-Cyprus relations and the energy cooperation strategy and the wider regional security landscape? And here to give us key insight on these developing issues are the Minister of Energy, Commerce and Industry, the Republic of Cyprus, Michael Damianos, and Chargé d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Nicosia, Cyprus, Dr. Daniel E. Mangis. So I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to begin with you, Minister. Let us know, tell us, how does Cyprus view its role in the vertical energy corridor?
Thank you. So over the past few years, energy geopolitics in southeastern Europe has undergone significant changes, primarily due to the war in Ukraine and the accelerated efforts of the US and EU to reduce reliance on Russian natural gas. These changes are redefining the energy security framework in Europe, with countries in the region looking for alternative energy sources. So Europe's priority is diversification away from single supplier risk. The vertical corridor connecting Greece and with Ukraine via Bulgaria, Romania, and Moldova enables northbound LNG and Caspian volumes to flow to Central and Eastern Europe. Greece's strategic location and its LNG infrastructure in Revithousa and Alexandroupolis position the country as a key energy hub for the LNG transportation to Central and Eastern Europe, including Ukraine. It operationalizes solidarity by reversing historic southbound flows and upgrading compression and metering to increase bidirectional capacity. It is a bridge asset, stabilizes markets during the renewables build-out and supports coal phase-out in Southeast Europe. To this end, the corridor is not just infrastructure, it's a geopolitical risk mitigation platform that integrates Balkan and Black Sea markets into the EU energy acquisition and transatlantic supply chains. Geographically and politically, Cyprus connects the Eastern Mediterranean basin to EU markets. As an EU member state in the Eastern Mediterranean and a country with long-standing strategic partnerships with its Mediterranean neighbors, Cyprus serves as a rule of law anchor in a volatile neighborhood. Through frameworks such as the East Mediterranean Gas Forum and the Union for the Mediterranean, Cyprus helps institutionalize regional cooperation. Therefore, Cyprus acts as a stabilizing guarantor precisely because it operates within EU governance structures while engaging regionally.
Thank you. So I guess some of the key takeaways I would say there is we're talking about hub, bridge, and guarantor within this emerging infrastructure. Thank you. Chargé Mangis, what is the current state of U.S.-Cyprus energy cooperation, and how does it fit into the broader European energy security?
Thank you, Dorothea, and Mr. Minister, and of course all the distinguished conference participants here. It's really a pleasure to be in Limassol for this important conversation about energy security and the future that we are building together. I send greetings from Ambassador to Cyprus, Julie Davis, who is unfortunately not able to be here today, attending to her other job running our diplomatic mission in Ukraine. Let me be direct. The United States has a fundamental interest in a stronger, more prosperous Europe, and Cyprus is playing a critical role in making that happen. The US-Cyprus energy partnership has never been stronger. Right now, Chevron is in the design and planning phase for what could be a multi-billion-dollar investment in Cyprus's offshore gas fields, potentially the largest foreign investment in Cyprus's history. And at the same time, ExxonMobil is evaluating 2 offshore blocks and expects to finalize development plans in the coming months. These ambitious projects represent American companies betting on Cyprus's future, creating jobs here and in America, and helping diversify energy supplies across the Eastern Mediterranean and beyond. And here is why this matters. We are entering an era where energy abundance isn't just about keeping the lights on, it's about powering the economy of the future. The artificial intelligence revolution we all hear about is transforming how we work, compete, and grow. But AI requires a massive amount of energy. If your economy doesn't have the energy to power AI, you won't be able to compete in the AI economy. And if you're not competing in the AI economy, you won't have an economy. It's that simple. And the United States is at the forefront of energy abundance. During President Trump's first term in office, America became the #1 producer of oil and natural gas in the world. And as the president declared in his October proclamation on national energy dominance, energy security is national security. And this is why the United States strongly supports energy diversification projects throughout Europe. President Trump has made clear that ending Europe's reliance on Russian energy is a priority. So projects like the vertical gas corridor, as the minister described, connecting Greek LNG terminals through Bulgaria, Romania, onward to Hungary, Moldova, and Ukraine, are designed to transport billions of cubic meters of gas and to break Europe's dependence on Russian energy. As U.S. Ambassador to Greece, Kimberly Guilfoyle, recently stated, the United States stands ready to supply more reliable gas to our European partners through projects like the Vertical Corridor, which will leverage American and European infrastructure to grow our economies and power this future we have together. Cyprus plays a vital role in this ecosystem as a potential energy hub in the Eastern Mediterranean that can help diversify supply sources and strengthen regional energy resilience. I would like to highlight that Cyprus has positioned itself exactly as the kind of partner that we need. Last fall at the International Maritime Organization, Cyprus stood with the United States, Greece, and scores of other countries to reject a carbon tax on shipping that would have funneled revenue into a UN-controlled fund. Cyprus's decision showed that when we work together based on shared economic interest and mutual respect, we deliver results. Cyprus currently, as famously, holds the presidency of the Council of the European Union. If you're looking for restaurant reservations or hotel rooms in Nicosia, you know what I'm talking about. And U.S. Ambassador to the EU, Andy Puster, was here just a few weeks ago with a clear message. We need regulatory reform across the EU that fosters innovation rather than stifling it. So Cyprus's focus on competitiveness and regulatory simplification aligns perfectly with what American businesses need to invest and grow across Europe. Beyond energy, we're talking about deepening cooperation on countering illicit finance, migration management, and defense and security cooperation in ways that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. So the bottom line is this. When the United States and Cyprus work together, we deliver results. We're building energy infrastructure that enhances our security. We're creating commercial opportunities that generate prosperity. And we're strengthening the transatlantic partnership when it matters most.
Thank you. I'm going to move back to the minister. And I'd like you to elaborate a little bit on the energy strategy and how does that align with things like economic development, regional stability, energy goals, both EU and Cypriot.
So energy strategy is not just generating export revenue, it's also about reducing input costs, attracting investments and building industrial capacity and supporting economic growth. Energy security, decarbonization, and regional stability are no longer separate policy tracks. They are mutually reinforcing imperatives. The European Green Deal, the REPower EU, and the emerging external dimension of the Clean Industrial Deal all point in one direction. Europe's energy future will increasingly be influenced by its neighborhood. Shared infrastructure creates multiple mutual dependencies, which reduce incentives for unilateral escalation. Infrastructure such as the vertical corridor supports EU security of supply objectives by diversifying away from dominant suppliers, promoting market integration across Europe, and decarbonization with transitional flexibility. So for Cyprus, its interests are aligned with EU policies and objectives, namely ending energy isolation, lowering energy prices, monetizing offshore reserves, and maintaining sovereignty and maritime security. Cyprus currently holds the rotating presidency of the Council, and among its priorities is to work towards strengthening EU energy infrastructure and interconnections with the objective of enhancing Europe's resilience and strategic autonomy in energy security. So the grids package presents a critical step in upgrading and streamlining electricity networks across the EU, while in conjunction with the Pact of the Mediterranean promoting interconnections between the EU and its partners. So Cyprus also strongly supports initiatives aimed at reducing energy costs. Ensuring affordable energy requires a fully integrated European energy union where all member states, regardless of market size or geopolitical constraints, have equal opportunities to benefit from a single energy market, and interconnections are central to this objective.
Thank you. Moving back to Chargé Mangis, what balance is the U.S. seeking amongst these things like energy security, potentially market-driven investment, regional de-escalation?
So I think I would echo all of the, from the American perspective, I would echo everything the minister is saying in terms of the advantages of this sort of integration and approach. I would say for us and what the President Trump's vision for energy security and how that applies across Europe goes, that we're really looking for the kind of integration and broadening of the European energy market and that allows for access for American LNG to ensure that we are not so overly reliant on as the dominant energy producers. And we're particularly focused on the Russians, of course. Right. And so in doing that, it does two things for us. First, it opens up for all of the countries that are part of something like the vertical corridor. Right. They're all in this good place where they can have access and have options, and that allows for the sort of stability and option sets that are super helpful for them in making longer-term decisions and lowering overall energy cost. Secondly, it allows us to directly inject the kind of LNG that we're exporting into the European market through a trusted and viable partner. So I'll just note that I think 80% of Greece's LNG imports are already coming from the United States. I think we're talking like $1 billion last year. And so the idea that that's going to feed into a good part of Eastern Europe is super important. Where I think the Cyprus piece on this is, Cyprus may not be part of the vertical corridor necessarily, but it does represent, just as the minister noted, a broadening of access, a broadening of energy hubs, and that allows for the more openings, more possibilities for transfer, more sources, and that leads to broader stability and accessibility inside of the European market, which is again only benefits the consumers and the business owners that are looking to keep their energy cost as stable as possible.
Thank you. And for the minister, what do you see as some of the challenges today? Infrastructure, financing, geopolitics, anyone, none?
So to my point, the main challenges today as regards infrastructure is the need for scalable export routes, reverse flow and compression upgrades, electricity interconnection delays, and domestic regasification and storage capacity constraints. Regarding financing, the main challenges arise from the high capital intensity of offshore and subsea projects, the requirement for long-term offtake agreements to ensure bankability, and the need to blend different financing models. In geopolitics, the volatile environment in certain areas, the security of offshore installations and subsea infrastructure, and the market volatility and global LNG competition are among the most crucial challenges that we have to address.
Thank you. And Chargé Mangis, what does energy resilience mean from a U.S. diplomatic and security lens?
I think from a pure national security standpoint, it means that our partners and our allies can't be coerced, and that our allies have options when things are not going well in the markets for good and unavoidable reasons, and that we have the critical infrastructure that can withstand both the physical and the cyber threats that challenge all of us. So for us, it's not just about having multiple suppliers, but it's having suppliers that you can trust, an infrastructure that you can control, and then alternatives, real alternatives when crises hit. And Cyprus is certainly a beautiful example of this approach. Cyprus is developing their own offshore gas resources. They're pursuing the Great Sea Interconnector to link with Greece and Israel for electricity, and have clearly positioned themselves as a key energy player throughout the Eastern Mediterranean. So multiple sources, routes, and partners, that's resilience in a nutshell for us. I will say, just another point on this, the decision, which we think was very wise of the Republic of Cyprus to pass investment screening laws. The legislation is really a game changer in terms of ensuring that when international investors that are coming into Cyprus to help in building out this infrastructure, whether it's energy or other parts of the economy, that these are going to be trusted providers. Our next challenge is to make sure that in the procurement side of the house, that is also equally scrutinized with a national security interest, which is also an economic and energy interest in mind as well.
Thank you. And you referred earlier also to offshore services. So where does shipping, I mean, many people here are in that industry. So where does shipping and offshore services fit into this infrastructure?
Yeah, so LNG cargoes can be redirected based on market demand. So you have LNG transport, offshore support vessels, subsea maintenance, and port services can anchor a regional energy services cluster. Expertise in vessel management and compliance supports LNG trade through Greek terminals like Alexandroupolis FSRU and feeding the vertical corridor. And I mean, as we know, Cyprus controls large merchant fleets, so it can actually contribute to the whole effort of this use.
Right, thank you. And for Chargé, Mangis, how does the U.S. view the protection of the critical maritime and energy infrastructure?
Well, it's certainly something that I think any investor in any country is going to be looking for, to make sure that if they're going to put the time and effort and capital to help grow a part of an economy of any country, whether it's Cyprus or the United States, that they're not going to be betrayed by infrastructure that is not reliable, safe, and can have back channel effects throughout the rest of their business, the enterprise. And so that's why we're particularly excited about Cyprus as a partner, because Cyprus is brimming because of its geostrategic location and the awareness of the government across the board of the leadership role that it can play in encouraging regional stability, that we see wonderful opportunities to partner with Cyprus. We've already mentioned the Great Sea Interconnector. I would also point that Cypriot ports have shown that they are already reliable as a place for critical infrastructure. The Dorothea plan for Gaza would not happen without exceptional port services and infrastructure. I'm not saying you can stop working on it, but of course you're constantly revising and looking for new opportunities. We think that the offshore gas fields, once developed, will also expand out the critical infrastructure that is going to be needed to do a lot of the energy exchanges that we've been talking about today. And all of this, again, as I said, it requires a constant sense of vigilance on the part of the government to make sure that low bidders or untrusted vendors don't get into the mix and somehow betray some of these really ambitious projects just because we were a little bit more focused on the cost and instead of the overall value of that project by ensuring that we have proper investment screening and procurement regulations. So you can hear my themes.
So actually going back to something you said earlier about the vertical corridor and the participants, do you think that it's scalable beyond the current participants?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, great. To the point. Okay. Do we think that energy cooperation can also act as a major stabilizer in contested regions? Either of you?
Well, energy alone does not resolve political disputes, but it can be used as a vector of regional cooperation in regions marked with political fragmentation. Energy diplomacy and strategic partnership may serve as confidence building instrument, provided it is structured around shared benefits and predictable governance frameworks. Yes. So better now. Yeah. So energy alone cannot resolve political disputes, but it can be a vector of regional cooperation. In regions marked with political fragmentation, energy diplomacy and strategic partnership may serve as a confidence-building instrument, provided that it is structured around shared benefits and predictable governance frameworks.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll just say it's not always a straight line to the electricity bill that leads to stability, but that electricity bill, or however we measure kind of the stability of the energy market, is what really empowers so many other aspects of our way of life, economically and socially. So to agree that absolutely it's critical. It's not the only piece, and that's why we always want to look at energy policy and the broader spectrum as well. But I think we're on the right track here in Cyprus.
Right. Thank you. The next question I'm going to pose to both of you. So we've heard a lot. We've heard some common themes. If the success of the vertical energy corridor and energy cooperation generally depends on aligned governance, capital, obviously, secure maritime operations, what single decision, political, commercial, or otherwise, in each of your opinions, must be taken within the next 12 months to ensure success?
Well, we're always full of recommendations, but let me answer.
Right.
Let me answer that by
pick
focusing
one, right?
on what Cyprus actually can do, and what the strength of the US-Cypriot energy ties makes possible in today's world. The single most important, I think, decision for Cyprus is to use its remaining months of the EU presidency to champion regulatory reform that enables energy infrastructure investment while advancing domestic procurement regulations that protect critical infrastructure from adversarial control. Cyprus is uniquely positioned right now because it holds the EU presidency through June to be able to shape that conversation about what that environment should look like for the entire region. And the presidency is focused on regulatory simplification, and we applaud that. It's not just good policy, it's essential for making these big, ambitious projects like the vertical corridor commercially viable. So Cyprus has passed its own investment screening last October, which was super important. We've already mentioned how the importance of moving on towards procurement and getting that right. We think that not only is it important for Cyprus, but it's also a great moment of leadership to show the rest of the EU that tackling the very difficult topic of procurement is the kind of thing that EU citizens should be expecting from their governments. So that would be my recommendations.
The ideal.
The corridor success depends on three aligned pillars: governance alignment, bankable long-term demand, secure maritime and infrastructure operations. So a single high-level political commitment paired with binding commercial commitments may unlock all three simultaneously. So we need predictable conditions for investors and energy operators. So I believe that if a single decision needs to be taken in the next 12 months, the most important is to move the vertical corridor from a political aspiration to something more tangible, financially capitalized, and security coordinated reality.
Thank you for that. I think we've covered, most everything that we wanted to tackle here today, and with a little bit more than 5 minutes to spare. I don't know if either of you would like to add anything on to any of the things that we talked about, or perhaps some aspect that I haven't discussed, but otherwise, I'm going to have a round of applause then for our esteemed panelists. I'm sorry, there's a question here.
Sorry, can I ask you both one question? On the main project, the decarbonisation and sustainability, where you've got the Great Sea Interconnector, which you're all working together to find some, and you say the United States has in principle, intention to invest. Now, you've got a major meeting, I think, coming up in the second quarter of 26 in Washington, where you're talking about the security aspects. Since it's around the corner, is there anything particularly which you can mention about that?
Well, I mean, there's not much that we can say on the subject at this point in time. There has been certain discussions over the last few weeks and certain announcements. So when we have something to announce, we will do so.
Thank you.
Is that good? Thank you very much. Thank you to our esteemed panelists. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.